What it look like. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
We know.
Yeah,
We know.
Hey, you know what, man? I don't know if you know this, man, but I signed up. There's this application called academia.edu. It's a website where I get a lot of my scholarly articles and stuff from. Okay. And what I love about them is they'll send you like notifications like, yo, have you want to read this article if you type in something. But they also go by your name. So I got tons of articles under Kurt Allen that be like, did you write this? We found art. I was like, man, I ain't write this joint, man. Stop. I'm getting a little frustrated, man. Like, stop putting it in there, man.
They probably don't look nothing like you either.
You know what I'm saying?
Like? You got pictures?
I'm the Don, baby. They don't look nothing like the Don.
Is that Brandon? Oh, Brandon. Listen, yo, Brandon.
Yeah,
KC.
Oof.
I'm just saying, listen, y'all, I got somebody got 2 tickets for the Super Bowl.
What y'all trying to do?
Available, like right now. Like, you got that kind of ends? Holla at me. Because, I'll holla at my mans. He was trying to get me to, I was like, yeah, that's crazy. I can't. That's a little too rich for my blood.
Yeah.
3 more days.
Strizzy. Eagles. Ladies and gentlemen, season 5, episode 14. We back. Right. We back, man. We back. This is our first back-to-back episode in a minute, fam.
It is.
You know what I'm saying?
It
Mike
is.
Kennedy, I like that. Kennedy Sr., appreciate you, man. Thanks for the shout-out, fam. We appreciate that, man. Appreciate that.
What up?
Yeah. We back to the grill again. The grill again. Back to the grill again. Season 5, episode 14, man. We going let me explain what we're doing tonight, because this is going to be a little bit different for many of you. It's going to be a little bit different, right? You got a fan right there. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Yes, sir.
Fan. That's what we're going to do. I'm not going to... Yeah, we're going to talk and see if you got your wings clipped. You know what I'm saying? So
I ain't getting my wings clipped. I ain't playing. You know what I'm saying? I'm just...
Hey, go ahead, man. So now, if y'all lose, you get your wings clipped. For the team. Yeah, you get your wings clipped.
I don't get my wings clipped. I ain't connected like that.
Oh, man, this dude... Look at this.
I'm not emotional like you. I don't get emotional, man.
Because you don't put no bread up, fam. When you put bread up and you go to the game, then you're going to be emotional.
That's right. I don't get emotional for that reason.
I'm at the game.
You see, this is the only green I put up for that joint. You see the green? This is the only green.
We had one more losing season, and my green getting put only on shirts too in the background. You know what I'm saying? I can tell you that right now. Let me tell you what we're doing today, y'all. Let me tell you what we're doing today. For those of you who are newer to Cross-Examine, first of all, we're grateful for you. Thank you for all of the different feedback you give us, either in the Kurt's Corner videos that I do or the episodes. Man, we're grateful. Sometimes y'all leave comments. Sometimes you send a Facebook Messenger, hit directly or on Twitter or something. We appreciate y'all so much. But let me tell you a little bit about this. For many of you who are newer to the show, I started this show 5 seasons ago. And the show was initially about like hip hop. Me and a guy from Hazakim, Tony from Hazakim. We did season 1 together, and it was largely, we always shared perspective. We always commented on what was happening in the culture, but a lot of the show centered around like our love for the art form. We're both artists, hip hop artists, but obviously we represented for the Lord, but we just had an affinity for the genre, even though the genre can be problematic in many ways. We always felt like, that was the genre we came up in and what we chose to do to honor the Lord. And then in season 2, Strack came on, and me and Strack. And then in the season 2, season 2 and 3 was largely hip hop. We had like freestyle. We had battles, like 16-bar battles, and we gave. I think the highest we gave out was 2,500, right?
Yeah, we gave out
2,500, right?
Yeah, we paid for like flight tickets and video shoot and all that.
We did all that. But in season 3, Cross-Examine, we moved away from hip hop, which started the show talking about that, and just started talking about the culture in the world. I think season 3 was when we shifted to like, if you vote Democrat, are you not a Christian? We started getting into all that stuff, and that's when we really started.
A little heavy.
Yeah, it got a little heavy. And then season 4, then obviously season 5, and now we're a little bit more involved in the YouTube. Tonight's episode may be a little bit different for y'all, and we understand if this isn't your cup of tea, but me and Strack both felt like, in light of hip hop being 50 years old, the Grammys, I didn't watch the Grammys, but I I was aware that they did like a sort of a montage of different artists throughout the 50 years of hip hop on the stage. My buddy sent me a link on Twitter that me and Strack both saw, which was the 13-minute montage of it. The quality wasn't that great, but it was still good to see that. But we just thought, you know what, tonight we wanted to take it back to what Cross-Examine was and where we started. So for those of you that are looking for perspective and things the way we normally come from the Bible and highlight things, tonight is going to be a little bit different. We're going to talk about sort of hip hop and the genre that affected us and how we think about it and what it's done. And it being 50 years old, we're going to spend some time talking about that tonight. So this isn't our typical Cross-Examine show. So we get it. If some of y'all like, I don't listen to hip hop. I don't want to listen. That's totally fine. We respect y'all and appreciate y'all. We'll be back for you next week, but we want to talk about something that we care about and we love. And another reason why is because, many of you know me as Pastor Kurt, Strack as Strack the Wolverine, but the artist with the paint. But we're also still music artists. We still release projects. And I know that sometimes when someone knows you, like people perceive me, they know I'm a pastor, right? You kind of think, oh, that's what that person does. And it can be hard. It can be weird to think, oh, they do other things too. But we're actually pretty good artists. If you go on iTunes or any streaming service and you type in Strack, you'll find some crazy quality rap that can keep up with whatever the world, the non-Christian world. His hype man
Strack, yeah, because
there's
others out there that try to,
right.
I've been Strack for like 20 plus years, but sometimes young men rise up and think they shall claim the name.
Yeah, and it's real. And then if you go type in Kurt Kennedy on iTunes or any of this, you're gonna find multiple albums that are quality. And we're not like I'm not like a Will Smith rapper who's a pastor. Well, Jesus is the one who saves, and we like rap a lot, and so we can actually rap. You know what I'm saying? Like we can compete.
Yo, Summertime was a banger though. Will Smith.
Hey, listen, right. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Drums, please. Now, don't get me wrong. I see you trying to throw in that Philly though. I see you trying to keep it about Philly. But don't get me wrong. But like for us, we're actually, I think we're good. I think we can compete. We can compete with the Lord doesn't just give people who believe in Him skill sets to preach and talk and all of that. But there's a number of different ways that believers are creative, and whatever creativity that you use, whatever platform that is, we should always do it, right? 1 Corinthians 10:31. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do all to the glory of God. And so I would, there are those of you who support us and are grateful. If you do like music, I would ask you to kind of venture over, listen to some of that music and support us. We're both working on projects right now. I think I'm working on, the project I'm working on right now is called I'm Warning You, Do Not Listen to This Album. And it's my first project speaking from a pastor's perspective. I usually talk about, and my mode of operation is usually to kind of, what I do on my videos, critique the culture and bring some discernment through the art form and the genre of rap.
Right.
And that's normally what I do. This album will still be that, but it'll be a lot of me speaking as a pastor in real time and some of the challenges. And I think people are going, every artist thinks his newest album is his best. And I've learned not to say what your best album is. That's really for people to say that. But I will say this project, I think, will shock a lot of people, and it will be as entertaining or more entertaining than any projects that I've put out in terms of quality of music and stuff like that. So we do take it seriously. Yes, you've heard some things, and it's some stuff on there. But we're going to come back to this. We're going to come back to this reality. We're going to come back to it.
Future want to know what we cooking for the Super Bowl joint, so I'm going to hit her off with that real quick. Florida's going to be throwing down on the ceviche with some tostones cups.
Ceviche.
You know what I'm saying? So we get down at the house, Future. We get down with the cookings. My pops and my mom Duke say they get down with the best of them. So we definitely going to be enjoying some banging food. Thank you for asking.
Hey, Brandon, that joint. Remember, Strack don't know about this joint. He from Philly, but he don't know about that brand new funk. Strack don't know about that
brand new funk.
Get down, brand new funk. Hit it, Get down, building another brand new funk. It's new. It's out of the ordinary. It's rather extraordinary. So, yo, Bosa's commentary, a literary. Oh, they don't want that smoke, brother. They don't want that smoke. They don't want that smoke.
You know, I was going to complain that we weren't going to be able to play any music, but I forgot I had the jukebox.
Oh, I'm the human jukebox fan. We're going to hit everything. We're going to do all that. But first, let's talk. Hey, listen, bro. Let's talk for a minute. Let's talk right now. The NBA is going bonkers right now.
Yeah, bananas.
Bro, is this the craziest week in the NBA you've ever seen? It's got to be up there.
It's wild, right? I mean, listen, I mean, I've been all NBA this week. We're watching the Bill Russell documentary and all that. So
we're going to get into that.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the whole jump off. This Kyrie trade and, yo, the Nets, I mean, what they got now? What they rocking with? Because Ben Simmons is like... Bum Simmons.
Yeah, he bum Simmons for real. Well, okay, let's talk about that, right? So the first trade we talked, so the two biggest blockbuster moves this week have been the Brooklyn Nets, who once had Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. So Kyrie Irving was the first to be traded to the Dallas Mavericks for Spencer Dinwiddie and Markieff, somebody else, and went to Dallas.
And some draft picks.
Yeah, right. And some draft. So here's what the Nets got. The Nets have... If I'm not mistaken, because the Nets gave up Kyrie to Dallas, which, first of all,
that's bananas in itself.
Luka Doncic and Kyrie together?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, look, Luka Doncic has never played with anybody as good as himself, right? So, like, and don't forget, they got to the NBA Finals last year. Luka Doncic is like
don't sleep on who he is. Like, he is top 5 players in the NBA. Easy. Bro. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's MVP running just every year for the last, 3-4 years now? Like, this dude is crazy.
Slim, that dude is like, Luka Doncic is probably the only person in the NBA that has a dad bod. That dude is like 24 with a dad bod. And
he's been playing with pros since he was like 13.
Man, he been cooking, bro. He's
crazy, man. It's crazy.
That dude. So, all right. So he goes to Dallas, right? And so you thought, well, that shakes up the West,
right?
You know, because I was actually, man, I ain't gonna lie. I like what Memphis is doing. Yeah. I like what. So I thought they might come out of the West, but then when Kyrie went there, I was like, I don't know.
No, that's a different game right now.
And then Kevin Durant gets traded to the Phoenix Suns.
Devin Booker, Chris Paul.
What?
Ayton, like, it's bananas.
The Suns? Like, the West is like, it's a wrap. Like, I'm talking about.
They whatever. For real.
Oh my gosh, bro! Like, I mean, the West. Whoever comes out of the West has to win the NBA championship.
Yeah.
Because it's incredible over. Like, I would have.
Except the fact that Philly is brolic. Don't sleep on my squad, though, fam. Saying, don't sleep.
Yeah, I'm sorry, bro. Like, you're not gonna get the Super Bowl and the NBA championship, so that ain't gonna happen.
Come on,
so
man. We're not don't sleep. Harden is playing like he was playing with the Houston Rockets right now.
Yeah, but Harden doesn't show up in the playoffs, fam. Like, Harden has to
does.
show up.
He will. He will.
Man, prophecy.
That's what we have to see. Is can they do it in the playoffs? That's why they brought in Tucker. They brought in PJ Tucker because they want to see if we could do it in the playoffs with Embiid and Harden. Because neither one has proven to be able to do it yet. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I just think the NBA, like, you know what's funny, man? I used to hate this, but I remember this. You know when this all started, right? This started back in Jordan's era when Charles Barkley left Philly and went to Phoenix. And that's when they had, like, Kevin Johnson, Thunder Dan Marley.
I remember that.
Remember that? Like, it looked like they was stacking a team, right? Doing
but they couldn't do it, though.
They couldn't beat Mike and them. They got to the finals, but it was like Mike, if I could be like Mike. It wasn't no way. They couldn't do it. But it was like, wow, it was a big move to see Barkley, who was the star at your Philly 76ers, go to Phoenix to win a championship. And then the next time we saw that happen was when Karl Malone and Gary Payton went to the Lakers. Remember that?
Was that before or after the Celtics?
That was before what Celtics? What you mean? What's up?
The Garnett and...
Oh, it was before that. It was before that. I think it was before that.
Lakers was before the Celtics,
So,
really?
yeah, it was before that. It was Malone and Peyton went to the Lakers to try to win, and they ain't win. Gary Payton then went to Miami, and they won. He wanted Miami with Dwayne Wade and Shaq.
Okay.
Okay, then in the more modern era, that was the last of like the old school era. Then in the modern era is when you had what you talking about. You took Kevin Garnett from the Timberwolves. You had Ray Allen, and they go play with Paul Pierce up in Boston.
Pierce, right.
So that's around '08.
Yeah.
It's around 2008 when they win a championship together around then.
Right.
And they beat the Cavs, right? They beat LeBron and them. And then after that, then LeBron and Chris Bosh go down to Miami, right?
Yeah.
And
that whole big three thing going on.
Right. And then ever since then, it's been like, and then Durant goes to, leaves OKC, Oklahoma.
Well, I mean, back in the day, from watching this documentary, you had Will Chamberlain, Elgin Baylor, and you had Jerry West.
That's true, yeah.
That's a big three right there.
That's a big three right there.
That might have been the first big three.
It might have been the first big three, right? Yeah. So it's just been interesting, but now I'm for it, right? Like I love what they did and how the West, and now because you know what I think it is. I think sports, when it gets predictable, you get tired of it, right?
For sure.
One of the reasons why I like greatness, so I don't hate on like great players. Like I liked watching Tom Brady play. He's just he was a good quarterback. But you get tired of them winning. I love watching Golden State play. I love watching Steph Curry play. But I don't want them to win anymore. Like it's good. Like you've won, you've done your thing. I respect greatness, but I really want to see like something else, right?
Right.
I want to see something different. And so I'm looking forward to seeing like potentially an NBA final of just two teams that we just haven't seen match up and go head to head.
Yeah.
I don't know out of the East though who's going to do it outside of Philly, Milwaukee, or Boston.
That's the three. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the three. Yeah.
I just can't see any other team coming out of the East.
I hope it's Philly, obviously.
Sure,
We'll
of
see what
course.
happens.
Sure. Yeah, you're biased, right?
Yeah.
Pun intended.
Plus,
But
I mean, MB, look at MB's career. Like, this is, when you look at big men, after
Yeah.
7-8 years in the league, they usually get a title if they're going to get one. You know what I'm saying? That's usually around the time they get one. So, it's time. Like, he deserves one. The man's
Right.
been balling. Like,
Right.
they keep robbing him of these MVPs. You know what I'm saying? Come on, fam. Like,
Yeah. No, it would be a wild season for y'all to get the Super Bowl and the NBA championship.
it would.
That would be wild.
Crazy.
That would be wild. Yeah, there was a year where the Washington we got the Stanley Cup,
Right.
we got the World Series, and we got in the midst of WNBA all won championships.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It was like
Remember,
the same year.
Philly just went to the pennant. Remember, they just went to the World Series. They
Yeah.
lost, but they went.
Yeah.
They got
Nah, fam,
rocked.
the NBA is bonkers right now, bro. Like I can't imagine. Here's what I would say though. Like I don't think Golden State. I hope they don't win it because I'm just tired of seeing them win it. But I think this type of energy is going. This will give them like motivation to like go
It will.
hard. Yeah,
It will.
And
Yeah,
I do.
Steph
I think
is gonna see the
Steph
challenge.
Curry has the finger of God, bro. I think God just blessed that man's fingertips. That ball just
Yo.
comes off and swap.
The thing is, the last time, I think the only time we seen KD play like really well with other good players was when he was with the Warriors. I mean, so we'll see how he does with Chris Paul and Devin Booker. You know what I'm saying? Like,
That's what's up. My son just gave us a super chat. Thank you, little bear. That's my son right there, y'all. Boom Crusher. Go follow my
Boom
son.
Crusher.
Go follow my son's YouTube channel. He be doing crazy dances and be wild. He be getting more views than me.
Is that Mateo?
Yeah, Mateo, he be getting more views than me, man. Thanks for the super chat, son. That $1.99. Even though I gave it to you to give that, you know what I'm saying? It comes out of my pocket, but I appreciate that, son. Love you.
Yeah.
But he always checks in. My son is always checking in to see what's up. That's my 11-year-old right there. My 11-year-old goes hard, man. Y'all get on that. Get on that, man. Get on that. Get on that. You know what I'm saying? Boom Crusher. Go follow my son on his joint. Get on that. You know what I'm saying? It's my dude right there. All right, y'all. We're going to listen. NBA is going to be crazy. But let's talk this. It's Black History Month. Let's talk a little Black History Month. We both watched. I saw this, but I didn't really know about until you really mentioned it. But you mentioned earlier the Bill Russell documentary.
Yeah.
And so I've seen part one. I don't know if there's more than 2 parts.
I think it's just the 2 parts.
It's just 2. So I saw the first one today. I watched it because I knew we wanted to talk a little bit about it. So obviously this Black History Month. And I don't know if they intentionally released the documentary in some kind of celebration of Black History Month. Not that, and to be honest, man, Black History Month is like, people don't really care anymore about it as much. I think people are tired because of Black Lives Matter. I think it feels like Black History Month in the last decade. So I don't think
overshadowed it.
It kind of overshadowed it,
right?
right?
Did, yeah.
So I don't think people are really tripping off of Black History Month. But anyway, it still is that. But they released this documentary on Bill Russell, one of the greatest players the only person to win 11 championships, man?
Yeah, 11.
This dude won 11 championships with the Boston Celtics.
2 of them as coach player.
Right. Ain't that crazy, bro?
That's bananas, fam.
That's
when
crazy,
Flora
bro.
saw that, Flora was like, wait, I thought I was like seeing it wrong. I was like, nah, baby, he was coaching and playing at the same time. And he won
At the
2
same
titles
time.
that way.
This man won 11 rings. He got more rings than fingers, bro.
And first black coach in any pro sport.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's
Like,
crazy.
that's bananas, fam.
Right.
Yeah, he was definitely treading like unwalked territory.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Like he was treading the ground, bro. Yeah.
Right.
It's definitely inspirational watching that joint.
Yeah. So I'm curious, man. So far, we've both seen the documentary. What did you get out of it? Like, what did you think about the first? I haven't seen the second one yet, so I can only talk about the first. What did you get out of watching that? Just what did you learn about Bill Russell? What stood out to you?
I think what stood out was how he really wanted to just be known more for his character outside of the court. You know, like he wanted people to acknowledge that he was a man. You know what I'm saying? Like he was a human being and he deserved respect and you know, to be treated like so. You know, that's just what he wanted, and that's what he wanted for everyone who looked like him. You know what I'm saying? So that was his main goal, honestly. I mean, it was interesting listening to him talk about basketball, his career, and how it affected, because they took excerpts from his memoir.
Right.
So you some of the writings were like talking about how he viewed basketball almost as childish at certain times. In comparison to what's happening in real life. You know, he's like talking about it. Listen, I'm out here playing this game when, you know, all these people in these stands don't even want me to live where they live.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, just those realities hitting them. And even later
like when
on,
they talked about his car broke down and then he was, people were just like yelling at him and stuff when his car broke down.
Yeah, that's crazy, fam.
After winning championships in Boston, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, even the town, like when they put on a celebration of him after years of being there, after years of dealing with nonsense, they put on a celebration, and then he's like, "Great, I'm in here. We chilling in Reading. Let's just find another crib,
right?
In a better neighborhood. Like let's be moving on up."
Yeah, right.
Well, he goes to move on up, and they all sign a petition like, "Nah,
they
homie,
don't want him there.
You stay where you at." That's crazy, fam.
Yeah, no, that's wild. So when I watched the documentary, there are 2 things that stood out to me. One, I thought it was fascinating because he grew up in Jim Crow South, right? And I thought it was fascinating that when his dad decided they needed to move, they move out west to California. And it's not until they get out there that they're like, that he couldn't believe it. Like, schools were integrated. He was allowed to go to the library.
Right.
Like, it was just like a different world to them. Like,
his mom took him, was like, "You're going to spend a lot of time in
yeah,
this building."
his mother took him to the library when he was a kid and was like, "You're going to spend a lot of time here." And that's what he did. He was going to the library and reading. And it was, for me, it was like, wow, just remembering that, like, there was a time when that was such an acceptable cultural norm, right? In a part of the country that was ridiculous in terms of their laws and policies. Now, there was anti-black sentiment all over the nation. It wasn't like it was only in the South. That Jim Crow were laws in the South,
I
But
mean,
Jim
this.
Crow attitudes were everywhere. But he was able to go out in the Oakland area in California, the Bay Area, and just kind of like live and do, and just wasn't exposed to a lot of that kind of
Just within
racism.
even the NBA, within a span of 5 years, you went from the quota of being allowed to have 2 black players on the team
Yeah, only two,
to,
right?
to 5 years later, he was a head coach.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying, of a team
yeah.
in the NBA,
Right.
with just that much span. I mean, that's how drastic and
Right.
crazy things were at that time.
So now I'm gonna say something else that reminded me of this kind of a little bit little off in terms of it. The connection may not seem there initially, but I don't know if you saw this, but on Twitter there were a lot of people posting this video of like maybe a 13-year-old black kid just wailing on this girl, and she looked like she was white initially, but I think she was light skinned apparently. But it looked like a black dude beating up on this white girl, and all the people, the typical people, the Ali Beth Stuckies and the twin black dudes, I forgot their names, but there was all the like typical kind of conservative tropes, and it was a bad video. Don't get me wrong, it was terrible. And one of I forgot these twins and these two black dudes. They were like, man, how have we gotten to a place in society where this is acceptable, right? And then I started seeing other people talking about, oh, look at this, look black people, look at when they do this, the media doesn't show it and all. And people were like, well, first of all, the girl is not black on white violence, but you know, when they said that, like, how have we gotten to a point in the country where this is acceptable? You know, watching Bill Russell's documentary, and I have this book that I was looking at earlier today called what's it called? It's a book about lynching, about people who have been lynched, and it has pictures of people being lynched. And in these pictures, man, me and my colleague who I pastored with, we were looking at it. And I'm trying to find the name of the book. I just recently bought it. So I'm going to look on Amazon to see. I'm blown. I can't remember the title right now. But in this book, bro, you just see these graphic pictures of mainly, Without Sanctuary, right? It's called Without Sanctuary. And it's the story of, it's the documentary of lynching photography in America, right? So this is all 20th century stuff. And in this book, you would see this. This was crazy. You would see a crowd of white people with children and everything there, and they're smiling, looking up at this black man or woman, sometimes both of them hung from a tree. And, you know, this is what I thought when I saw the guys, these black conservative twins, say, look, how have we gotten to a point where our country tolerates this? I quoted it on Twitter and then had a reply and said, this is terrible, but I'm confused by your question because this has been happening for hundreds of years, right? Like what I hate is that, and this is kind of what watching Bill Russell's story, it reminded me that even today, when black people in particular commit a crime or violence, it's always highlighted as, look at this community, look at these people. But if you really think about the trajectory of violence in the country, I mean, white people made money off of violence. They exploited people. They gained status off of violence. Like, it's not unique to black culture, and it's not just connected to fatherlessness in a particular community. Because in this lynching book, which, as a matter of fact, man, I forgot. I brought it home because I was so impacted by it. Looking at it again. I bought it home. Here's the book, right? This is what it's called. It's called Without Sanctuary. And you open this book up and you see pictures. You might not be able to see them well, but it's just nothing but photos of black people just being murdered, lynched, and it was okay to do it. No charges filed, no nothing. And I was like, why is it when black people do the same thing? Like, if nothing else, and I'm not saying that black people are not wrong and aren't sinful for doing these things, but when you look at American history, you see this type of violence perpetrated against black people and other people have benefited particular groups of people, white people in general, white men in particular. So this isn't new, and I hate when anyone tries to make it seem like it's unique to black culture. Like, violence is not unique to black culture. There was a point, I mean, Westerns, right? In the 50s were all mimicking a time in the West, the Wild West, where there were just like senseless violence. The same kind of senseless violence that is talked about in the streets, which is rightly talked about in the streets in the gang community, was accepted by white America in cowboy, like wanting their kids to be cowboys and Indians and John Wayne movies. And those were all mimicking the Westerns that came out in the 50s. Even now, Westerns. Young Guns was one of my favorite movies with Billy the Kid and Doc Holliday in them. It was a crazy movie, Young Guns. And it was all highlighting, and in many ways, white on white violence that was celebrated. So
whenever you watch any of those civil rights footage, like the footage of that era, it's all right there. Like the evidence is, you see the wickedness. I mean, all you have to do is read books about our history, U.S. history. You can see the violence. You see all of it right there. It's not.
And this is what while I didn't agree or support Black Lives Matter because they were with their witches, and I'm not saying they're witches exchanging the W in place of a B, they're literal witches. We did an episode about them in season 3 where we had my man Abraham Hamilton come on. But I think the problem, the reason why black people at times still say systemic racism, I don't think racism is systemic, to be honest. I think it's systematic. But the reason why black people still feel that way is because there's still a double standard in America. We'll talk about the violence in the black community and highlight all this stuff, and then well, what about black on black crime? And like, but we have hundreds of years of, you can't erase that. Like in the Bible, God doesn't forget that stuff. Like it's one thing to keep a record of wrongs, right? And punish people for things, but it's one thing to remember. Like the Lord remembers all of that stuff. Like our salvation is connected to a historical event. Like we selectively, like you'll celebrate July 4th, which was white on white violence, right? And that's what July 4th was. July 4th was white people in the colonies fighting against their Great Britain, England, and them. They got tired of paying taxes, right? So it's like, it was you celebrate white on white violence selectively. You'll throw it on face. Yeah, but we had a civil war to start. But then you have Jim Crow after that, 90 something years of Jim Crow laws specifically. So there's a double standard. And this is what stuff like white privilege and all that. There's a double standard. When you watch this documentary of Bill Russell, you realize like, wow, this dude was an NBA dog. He was a superstar, winning championships for Boston. And they were racist towards it. I mean, they celebrated the dude one night, and then a couple days later, got signed petitions that his family couldn't move to a neighborhood. It's the same Bill Russell.
Then they mad because he won't sign no autographs anymore.
Yeah, right. Then they get mad when he gets affected by that,
he
right?
He stopped signing autographs in 64, right? And people were mad at him about that.
And that's what I think America doesn't realize. It forgives all the stuff that happened in the past, but now it blames the people who still may struggle with some of those things. And don't get me wrong, the black community is wilding at times, especially the aspect of the community that we're going to talk about soon, where hip hop comes out of that community. I think we celebrated things that shouldn't be celebrated. But I understand why we did it, and we'll get into all that. But when I watched the documentary, it just was a further reminder that America's history, as great of a nation as we are, and I'm only saying great because I think we talk like America is the saint of the world, and in reality, for a Christian nation, America has really did a disservice to the gospel. America preached the gospel, but it didn't portray it that well in terms of how we live. But I think when I watch these documentaries, I realize like this is like a historical trend for this kind of thing. So don't make violence in the black community uniquely targeted because of this. What about the fathers? Where are the fathers? Man, in that book, I can show you a bunch of fathers with their kids watching black people hanging from trees, right?
Right. It's crazy.
And let's just be clear, like, and we're going to talk about to say this about the NBA. The NBA, and when David Stern took over in 77, and here's what happened. Oscar Robinson, so the NBA got divided into two leagues, right? Because black people were coming in. Bill Russell was there and Wilt Chamberlain and some other people. But it got divided from the NBA to the ABA. And the ABA were essentially like the black players. Like it was mostly street ball, Dr. J, and all these flashy players. There were some white boys too that was in the NBA, right? But a lot of flashy black players came out of the ABA. Well, when Oscar Robinson retired and became an NBA executive, he put in motion something that we know now is called free agency. That was the first time that any athletes, but black athletes in particular, could control their own narrative. So Oscar Robinson put in motion like a player can have free agency and determine his future and not just be told what to do, right? So David Stern takes over the NBA, I think around 77 somewheres, all right? And the NBA is pretty racist. I watched a documentary where David Stern said that there weren't as many NBA teams as there are now. So he said, it said 12 of the most, of the biggest cities were boycotting the NBA because black players were coming in. They did not like it. And David Stern took it over. They weren't getting advertising, marketing, nothing. And they didn't know if the NBA was going to last. Then Magic Johnson plays Larry Bird in the 1979 NCAA Finals. And it was the largest watch. It may not be to date, but for the longest time, it was the largest viewed NCAA championship game because it was essentially this black dude from the hood of Flint, Michigan, and a white dude from French Lick, Indiana, right? Magic and them won, but they both went to the NBA at the same time. And what the NBA did was they built the league around a rivalry of Magic versus Bird. But what got people excited was they were calling Larry Bird the Great White Hope.
Right.
That's what happened. And so Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, and mind you, look at what year we're talking about. We're talking about 1979. This is what, 11 years after the last civil rights legislation was signed, right?
It's my lifetime.
Yeah.
It's my lifetime.
Yeah, Magic Johnson was middle class, but he was still connected to the hood, though. So Brandon's saying that. Magic Johnson was still connected to the hood, too.
Brandon's on point, though. Brandon's on point.
Yeah, but it didn't matter.
Sports facts.
But the way they built it was this black kid from underprivileged versus
For sure.
the dude. So it was a black versus white thing. It doesn't matter what they really thought he was from. It was the perception that the country had, and people started getting behind it. And then it was like, okay, we like this rivalry. And then it just so happened that Lakers versus Celtics became the main rivalry in the 80s, right? The 90s, it became Jordan's world. But I'm saying all that to say, that was way after civil rights legislation was signed. So there was still this animosity towards, and this is the stuff that people are talking about. Like, you keep talking about laws that were passed in the 60s. We're talking about experiences that live on because laws never change the heart. So that's when I watched the documentary, I was like, wow, this is just a reminder of the reality, right? The reality of all that stuff and where it comes from. So
the same people that put on that town hall celebration of him and said, there'll be a day for Bill Russell on, here in Reading, whatever.
Right.
They allowed these dudes to run up in their crib when they wasn't home. Right. And to put excrement on their bed and write, the N-word all over their crib and do all kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So
that's what and this is what I mean. Like, if you could. I used to say this back in the day, and I'll explain what I mean now because we're going to transition to talking about the Grammys and hip hop. But I remember I said on chapter 2 of I got an album called Chapter 2 on iTunes, whatever, and it's called Frustrated Christian, but it's chapter 2. Chapter 1 it's not on iTunes right now, but chapter 2, 3, and then C4, and it keeps going. But I said that sport entertainment did more for black people than the evangelical church.
I remember you saying that.
Remember I said that? Entertainment did more. Let me explain what I mean. And Bill Russell, because we're talking about this perfect example. Like, the laws changed in the 60s and slowly were implemented, but a lot of people did not change their hearts. And what won people over, this was post Martin Luther King, he was assassinated. There were no other real strong leaders representing Christ that took over the mantle of civil after Martin Luther King was assassinated. It was almost like the dream was over. You had You had black
Oh, you
people.
didn't like Jesse Jackson? You wasn't banging with Jesse
Go ahead,
Jackson?
man. Go ahead, man. Him and Al Sharpton, man. Go ahead, son. I want to have him speak if I get shot by the police. I want him to speak at my funeral, man. Go ahead, man. This dude. But what you had was black people got into more group communities like the Black Power movement, the Black Panthers, right? They were all those types of things. So the sentiment, the laws had passed, but the sentiment hadn't really changed that much. And so when you get to what changed people's minds was not like a conviction that we're treating black people wrong. I'm not saying that wasn't there. When Emmett Till's mom had him, when he died in 1954, that was 1955 though. That began to change some things, but that was a year after Brown versus Board of Education.
Did you peep that movie yet?
Nah, I ain't watch it. Yeah. I ain't see that joint. I ain't feel like watching it because I'm just kind of tired of watching that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
I might watch it at some point, but you just get tired of watching that and feeling like if you're connected to that's somehow woke, right? I'm just so tired of like, man, you can't even care about things without being woke.
Right, I got you.
To some people. So what I was saying was like, what changed people's hearts was not the civil rights laws that got passed. What changed people's hearts were people liked our ability to entertain.
Yeah.
You would never let your daughter marry a black man, but boy, did you love watching Jim Brown run people over in the NFL. Jim Brown was a big black dude in the 50s. You hated, like the people in Boston, man, they loved that they won championships with Bill Russell and cheered, right. But then they ran up in his house and wrote nigga in his
And they wouldn't help him when his car was broken.
They wouldn't help him when his car broke down, right?
Man.
So this is what I mean. This is the stuff that black people understand. Like, we're not stupid, right? Like, we get it. If you cannot entertain me, then I don't care about you. So it wasn't so much that legislation changed people's hearts. What legislation did, civil rights, it made people have to face consequences now for doing things to black people. So things became a little bit more clever, slick, and all of that. I mean, David Stern said, man, he thought the NBA was going to fold in 1977. Right? They thought the NBA was going to fold, the NBA. And so again, all of this stuff is just kind of crazy, bro. So when you see this, you realize like what changed people's hearts was like watching Bill Russell win these championships. Music, Motown was killing it. I remember Smokey Robinson and the Miracles in them. They were telling a story that I forgot what they were performing, and they said the whole audience was just white people, that girls screaming with the beehive hair and all that. They was just getting it in, sweating their weaves out, right?
The Sammy Davis Jr. He was
all of it. All of it. They loved black music. They couldn't get enough of it. But Smokey Robinson said that after one of his performances, they tried to go to get something to eat, and they were like, "Nah, y'all can't eat here." And there were people who were there watching them dance who were like, "Nah, they can't eat here."
It's the Green Book.
Right. So there is a sense where entertainment, black people's ability to perform, whether it's acting, whether it's singing, whether it was sports, whatever it was, if it entertained, that's how you got over. You gained a little bit of acceptance, but you always felt like you still a nigga. And this is what LeBron James was saying in 2017 when they spray painted nigga on his. I know we ain't gonna monetize this anyway, so I'm at YouTube. I'm like, oh man, you said that was a bad word. I'm allowed to say it. YouTube. Remember, I'm black. But when they spray painted that on his entrance to his home in 2017, he was like, this is what I mean. This is what this stuff. Even though he's been a pretty much a good role model for the most part, this is what he's talking about. So entertainment did a lot. And so when you talk about Bill Russell, when you watch the documentary, you realize like, wow, this dude at that point had won 4 championships or something for them. And they still treated him like trash, bro. And not because he did something for the city, but because he was black. And that's the psychological damage that's done. You know, now that stuff was before civil rights legislation, but I'm talking about post that. I can give you tons of examples.
And the thing is, on top of that, you're not just talking about a man who, you know, is looking out there and seeing people that look like himself being treated a certain kind of way, and he himself being treated, but his daughters, like his kids, his wife. You know what I'm saying? Like you come into their crib, you threatening kid and wife. Like that's a whole nother story. I mean, how is he able to maintain, you know, a level head? He's out there balling, knowing that his family is in the midst of wolves. Fam, that's
100%.
crazy to me.
100%, bro.
But that's something he had to deal with on a regular basis.
So now let's transition this, because I think the Grammys did a. I didn't watch it. I forgot it was even on. I'm just not in tune anymore. But the Grammys did
I don't never watch the
a.
Grammys.
Huh?
I don't ever watch the Grammys.
Yeah, I don't watch it. I don't watch any of that stuff. But they did a 50-year celebration of hip hop. Hip hop is 50 years old this year, and what they did was they had a montage of different rappers. Sometimes it was only like 30 seconds. Some people got a little bit longer, but a lot of it was a montage of different art from Grandmaster Flash and Melly Mel. It's like a jungle sometimes. All of this
Melly
stuff.
Mel was out there with his shirt off. And all
With his
that.
shirt off, 67 years old.
Looking man hard though.
Man, was he?
You know what I'm saying? Like 60 something, looking like Schwarzenegger.
It's like, hey, Melly Mel, man, your grandkids is watching, man. Go ahead, son. That man probably got great grandkids at this point. They still trying to get performances.
That clip you sent me was all right, man. Like you said, the sound quality was kind of meh.
Yeah.
But, you know.
So me and Strike, I didn't watch the Grammys, but we watched it. Ice-T my buddy told me about it. The Ice-T on Twitter had the whole thing. And so I sent it to Strike and we watched it. And it was interesting to watch it because I'm old enough, like I grew up with hip hop. Like I grew up with it. I'm old enough to remember a lot of it. Like I was a kid when certain things came out, but I remember the message in 1982. I remember Rapper's Delight. I was a kid like a couple years old, but I remember that vibe. And it was cool to watch just the journey of hip hop. But what how it connects to what we were talking about a minute ago with Bill Russell and even Black. A lot of hip hop was a transition music because there was so you had Motown coming out of Detroit, out of Michigan, out of Detroit, Hitsville, right? But Motown was no longer a black music. It was appealing to the masses. I mean, people had their hair permed. Mm-hmm. They were appealing to a different group. Then you had that soul music, that Isaac
Jazz
Hayes.
Blues.
Yeah, you had Isaac Hayes and Curtis Mayfield, and it was just a different
Al Green.
Right, it was a different kind of black music. James Brown, say it loud. Mm-hmm. I'm black and I'm proud. I mean, when he put that song out, it was an anthem because nobody was talking like that.
Right.
So there was this movement of music, right? But it was a movement that was still very much anti-law, didn't trust the police. Like it wasn't like once they passed civil rights legislation that black people were like, oh, the police are friendly now. Like you still didn't trust these folks, right? And so you get in the late 60s, early 70s, you get this brand of movies called the blaxploitation films. And these were movies that were they were created by black people and told sort of the black ghetto point of view. Right. It was not every one of them, because they had some just typical.
It was embellished a little bit.
Yeah,
it was a little extra.
It was embellished, but I mean, but the narrative against black people had been embellished since Birth of a Nation, 1915, right?
Yeah.
So you get this narrative, and where for the first time, the hoodlums are like the heroes in these movies. You got Black Caesar. That dude was a gangster. You got the Mac. You know what I'm saying? He was a pimp. You get all these movies where you're cheering for the black people to not get arrested because the police are corrupt. Like there's still not a large trust of law enforcement because they still take advantage of black people. So now the movies sort of represent like your heroes, but the problem was they were all like hoodlums, like gangsters, criminals,
pimps,
right?
Drug dealers,
right? But what that did was that translated to respecting those people in real life.
Yeah, that's how I grew up.
Yeah, it translates. And so in the black community, it wasn't democratic policies that made black people who they were. It was a lack of trust that the people who protect and serve you, a lack of trust in those people, a lack of trust in the system that is supposed to be the justice system. It was really the just us system, right? So it was, in many ways, there was a lack of trust. So you can blame it on democratic policies all you want, but a lot of it was we don't trust these people, and we tired of getting. And this is what you saw in the 70s, but in the 60s, people weren't wearing afros like that. But in the 70s, black people started wearing like afros, cornrows. They was getting tired of feeling like they got to acquiesce to what white people in particular are saying about black people. So there was a movement that was like black, black fists up, bushes, all that, right?
Yeah.
Well, hip hop comes out of that culture. And hip hop was hip hop was a culture that wasn't just music, but I'm going to center around rap music. People, they equate the two, they're not the same thing. Hip hop is the whole culture. Right. Rap music is salsa to the Latino culture, right? You wouldn't call like, or it's one of them, right? You wouldn't call like salsa all of Latino culture. That's just
no, not at all.
Yeah, it's just that. So rap is sort of the musical expression of hip hop. Right. But we're gonna talk about it. But the rap music comes out of that, right? Out of the blaxploitation era, out of the frustration of the application of civil rights policies. Doesn't excuse.
I think actually thinking about it, I'm sorry. Probably the comparison would be Latino.
Okay, right.
You know what I mean? So Latino would be more the cultural, I think, from my perspective anyway.
Yeah, Brandon holds it down. He know the music. It is real, but it's not real. Right? So you get this. He talking about this album. Go on iTunes if you really want to hear how we got here as a country and how black. Go to iTunes, look up Kirk Kennedy, and download an album called The Appendix. That album, well, there's no other album like that, secular or Christian, but it'll explain to you. It's an albumentary. It's an album and a documentary all in one. It'll explain how we got to a lot of what I'm talking about now. But you get like this music comes out of in the 70s. It comes out of the frustration of failed policies in the black community, of failed civil rights policies. The frustration of those not really happening. All the other stuff that was happening in the world. There was so much going on, so much drama. The 60s was really a turbulent decade. I mean, I'd say 2010 to 2020 was the closest turbulent decade to the 60s that we've seen.
Yeah, it feels like that.
Yeah, it was a turbulent decade.
It reminds me of footage I've seen.
100%. It was crazy. But you got rap music comes out of that, and it was in many ways it was an escape from the pressures of the day and all of that. But it eventually became the music that expresses the frustration of the black community.
The Bronx was terrible at that time. It looked like a war zone.
Oh my God!
You know what I'm saying? So if the Bronx is attributed as the birthplace of hip hop, then that's where it looked horrible, like Baghdad. You know what I'm saying? In the middle of war, that's what it looked like. If you ever go back and look at photograph or any kind of footage, it looked bad.
Looked like Baghdad, yeah. And so people were dancing, and here's how it started. A guy named Kool Herc, a DJ. What he would do is he would get two turntables and he would take like a song like James Brown, I'm Black and I'm Proud. And there might be like a 10-second like breakdown where it was just like the drums and the horn, boom, cat, cat, boom, 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 cat, cat, boom, 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 do, 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 do. It might be like 10, 12 seconds in the song. Well, he would get the same record and he would time it so that when the one song ended, the next one came on. And so people would hear this and be like, whoa, the break beat, it was like the break beat is what they call the little break in the song. Right. That's continuing, like that's continuing to play. Yeah. And then Grandmaster Flash, he came and started to like cut like Garrick, boom, do, Garrick, boom, do. And they would do this for like 5 minutes. Right. So people who could only dance to that one part started dancing like, because now you're doing it for like 4 or 5 minutes. Right. That's why they call it B-boys, like break boys, breaker, because you would start to dance, and that became a new thing. And then they would have these dudes called MCs who would talk about the DJ. Well, my DJ, he turns it up and he's wrong. So they would do that, right, and kind of size of the DJ. And the DJs were the famous ones, and the rappers were just the MCs were the dudes talking about, well, my DJ, he can cut it down, get nice, all that stuff. So they would just do these things to get the crowd like, I say, ho, ho. And then they would do like little rhymes just to kind of keep it going. And that became, hold up, man, people started liking the rhymes, right? Yeah. So initially, the music was sort of like, we just partying, we releasing stress, we just dancing. But when the message came out in 82, that was the first time where rap was like, we need to say something. Mm-hmm. Like we're picking up where the black exploitation films and the 70s music tapered off. And I'm not making no excuses. I think black people have done a terrible disservice to our community by identifying with anti pro criminal identities, right? But a lot of it, unfortunately, is not just democratic. It's not really democratic policies, as conservatives like to point out. A lot of it is more a reaction to a sentiment that has been perceived that when we do something as black people, it's always more sinful. So now today, people will use this analogy: the crack epidemic, the war on drugs versus the war on opioids and all of that, right? That's a health crisis that people are crying. These people aren't going to prison for being hooked on fentanyl and meth, not in the same way,
Right.
but black people were getting big time for being on crack. Instead of seeing it as a mental health issue,
It's
it was
looked at like as a whole different thing.
100%. So what a lot of what rap music started to become was an outlet, and not all of it. It wasn't one track minded. It was a lot of different styles, but it started to become truth music for the frustrations for people in the black community that thought after these policies get signed and we're going to be treated differently, and you still saw people a decade and a half later still feeling like, dang man, we still get treated like this, we still get harassed, and what you get is a people who have a hope deferred. The Bible says a hope deferred makes the heart sick, and I think in black communities there's more of a hope deferred than there is democratic policies that people keep thinking. Those are just talking points that don't matter.
Bill Russell definitely dealt with the hope deferred. He definitely felt it. I mean, you could see it in his personality. A lot of people complained about, that he seemed cold or he seemed disconnected. He said he was an angry black man, because of all that he had to see and what he was viewing on a daily basis and dealing with himself. So what you expect? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So what you get rap music that comes out of that, trying to explain some of the ills of the black community. And then that, the message in 82 eventually morphs into Ice-T with Colors in 86.
Right.
He's the first one that puts out there
That's
beginning
when the rage
of
starts coming out.
That's when the gangster rap comes out. I mean, Ice-T came out there, I am a nightmare walking, psychopath talking, king of my jungle, just the gangster. I mean, he's just coming in colors. And he's talking about red and blue, right? The Crips and the Bloods. That's the first song that really comes out, and people identify with it because for many black people in these communities, it was about identifying with something. Like you can't identify with what Reagan is talking about or what these people are talking about. You can't identify with that. And so a lot of what's happened in the communities is finding a place of belonging because you have a hope deferred. And sadly, what the church didn't do, gangs did.
Right.
Gangs showed up and were like, man, we a family. We gonna do this together. You protected. And that all of a sudden, that's what people really want. When you pull away all this stuff, man, democratic policies aren't the reason why people do what they do. If you Google the most dangerous cities in the world, do you know that the top 20 most dangerous cities, 16 of them don't have any black people that live in them? It's just, but when you get poor people and they're poor, then they're going to just act out. They're going to act in frustration of not having things and all of that. So rap music comes out of that, man, and it comes in and it becomes about competition. Well, I'm the best MC, and it's all that sucker MCs, Run DMC. It becomes like this competition, but it's non-violent. We just saying we better rappers and we better breakdancers, all that, right? But then eventually it starts to deal with some of the socioeconomic problems. It starts to deal with some of the hope deferred, the lack of trust that stems from, I'll tell you what, man, I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna let this alone with this. I don't know. I would love to see a study on the psyche of Black America after MLK's assassination. I would love to know, because I don't know if people realize that was the hope deferred for real.
I know the way they built it up on the documentary it definitely hit you hard when they mentioned that he was killed. Like it hit a little bit harder. Like I've seen it in so many different movies and conversations, where they finally get to that point where they talk about him being up on that balcony and getting shot, and this time it just kind of hit a little bit harder. Just the build up with everything that Bill Russell was dealing with and all that just kind of hit a little bit harder this time.
It did, yeah. Brandon, I said it was the song that really got gangster rap popular, not the first. So I'm aware of Schoolie D. Schoolie D used to go hard, Philly dude. I'm talking about Ice-T's Colors was the song that really blew up because it was connected to the movie Colors.
Right.
With Sean Penn and them.
Robert Duvall.
Schoolie D, and that was all underground stuff because Ice-T used to actually come in New York. Ice-T was in Beat Street. You know what I'm saying? Is one of like the host DJs in Beat Street.
Yeah, yeah.
So it wasn't that I said he's the first gangster, but it was the most popular, the one that really kicked it off. And because it was connected to a movie about LA violence, that's when it was like, okay, it's on that. That movie helped understand like this is what's happening in the gangs and stuff. So when I watched this Grammy rap, it was cool to watch it, but it connected with Bill Russell's documentary. It just reminded me of the journey of where we are in America, and also where you just can't blame this on the policies of any particular party, but it was a lot of just because it's more complicated than that. We'll just say that. All right, so Strack, how did you get introduced? Like, how did I think we both would say we grew up with hip hop. So I'd be curious to just know, like, when did you come in contact and what influenced you about hip hop?
Yeah, so I mean, the early.
And by that I mean rap mostly, but I mean also
rap. I mean hip hop. I was introduced to just from being on the street. You know what I'm saying? Like learning. We was outside playing, hanging out. Like I was aware of what it meant to be hip hop. Like I saw the artwork, we saw the dancing, and I would hear the music. But a lot of the music at that time for me, especially in my home, in the beginning was salsa, and actually Motown. My parents, like Lionel Richie, got mad love in my crib. You know what I'm saying?
All night long.
Oh yeah, Lionel Richie was being played all the time.
I know y'all like that El DeBarge.
Oh yeah, El DeBarge didn't get too much love in the crib. Yeah, because salsa got so much that only a few could get in. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
But what happened was actually, it's a funny story. My cousins was going to the mall, and I was probably about 10 years old, maybe 9. And for the first time, I was allowed to go with them as a kid, like Dolo. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they go to the spot. I don't know if it was Sam Goody at the time or what it was. I can't remember. But they stole some tapes, you know what I'm saying, like some singles, and I wasn't aware of it. Afterwards, they come out of the store and they're like showing me these tapes, like, yo, where you get that at? And they took them, but I was fascinated. I was, of course, like shook because they stole the joints, but I was more fascinated. I was more fascinated by what I was looking at. You know what I'm saying? Like I pulled out the tape and I'm like pulling out the sleeve for the cassette and I'm like reading everything and it was the first joint was Public Enemy. That was Ain't No Joke in Jokestown. You know what I'm saying? 911 is 911's a joke in Jokestown. So it was the single joint on that, and then the other one was what's my man? It was it? Damn, I can't remember my man's name, yo. That's crazy. Anyway, it don't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. But yeah, the Public Enemy joint, and we put it on, and I mean, immediately I was hooked. You know what I'm saying? Like I was immediately hooked, and then I'm in my cousin's car, and my uncle's putting on Can't Touch This. You know what I'm saying? Like I was like, yo, Can't Touch This? This is crazy. As a kid, I went crazy. I'm like, yo, this is, what am I listening to? You know what I'm saying? So the first joints though, I remember actually taking home myself was Redman's joint, Muddy Waters. You know what I'm saying?
Muddy Waters, boy. Woo.
Lords of the Underground.
Yeah. The one Chief Rocker, number one Chief Rocker.
Those was the first. Also, what was the squad called? Mr. Wendell.
Oh yeah, Arrested Development.
Arrested Development. You know what I'm saying?
That's Everyday People.
Everyday Peoples. I had their tape. I had and of course Nas. You know, so I had all like the and those was my fundamentals of hip hop for me. You know, that for me, that era was the fundamentals, the foundation of hip hop for me. So that I know that was a little later, but that was it, bro. That's what I got connected to. Then it was getting connected with De La Soul and Tribe Called Quest and finding, you know, all of them dudes just flipped my world upside down, big. I became hip hop through and through.
Right.
You know, my father loved salsa and I loved the sound that salsa gave, but I took the kind of vibes that came from salsa, the outgoingness of it, the you know, all the bravado of it, and I ran into hip hop and was like, wow, I fit here. You know what I'm saying? Like this is more my world. Like all the confidence and bravado that was in salsa, I just fell right into hip hop. Like this is where I belong.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man. I grew up with hip hop. I'm a little older than you, but I'm from the DC area, right? And so DC has its own musical style called go-go. And a lot of it is like drums, bass, good percussion, bass, and the congos, right? So DC had its own sound, and DC is every city is like this, but we're a real proud city. Like DC was like a city that rejected hip hop from New York. Like we weren't letting hip hop come down and influence us, like Maryland did. Like so you got DC here, Virginia over here, Maryland on this side. So Maryland embraced hip hop, but DC didn't. Yeah. DC didn't. But I grew up, man. I liked go-go, and I used to love go-go. But I don't know what it was, man. It was something about. It was. I mean, at the time, Run DMC was the most popular, so they were my favorite. But I actually like the Fat Boys more than Run DMC. But there was something about being able to communicate. Like I knew even as a kid that hip hop rap has a lot of different words. And you could say stuff, and I love that because, as you can see, I'm a talker. Even as a kid, I loved the expression of being able to, and it was clever, it was creative, and I loved like go-go didn't do that. Like go-go was more about dancing. I mean, they used to talk, but it was more about how you dance to it. Where rap was like you could like to be in a go-go band, you got to have like a bunch of people to practice. With rap, you could just rap by yourself. You could just play some beats and do all that. You could practice and get good. So I got into it just off of liking the art form and the music. And then at an early age, man, when I was in elementary school, my man Thomas, he loved rap more than I did. He could beatbox really well. And so, excuse me, that doesn't happen normal. But we formed this crew called, I'll never yawn in the joint. But we formed this crew.
Mad boring.
I know, right? To them, I'm loving this joint because we don't talk about this that much anymore. We really talk about other things. But y'all ain't because you're born. Sometimes it's a chemical imbalance. So like my man, we used to record these tapes, man, and just like rap and just have fun. But I fell in love with the music, and then as it got better, like it used to be just so like boom. I used to love it, but then probably around '86. I think when Rakim came out, when he came out with I Ain't No Joke, and then you heard Paid in Full, and then I got the album Paid in Full, and I listened, I was like, this is different. Like, this is a different, and then you had Big Daddy Kane, and that was different, and then you had Public Enemy, and it was Public Enemy was the most popular group, because you had groups like Poor Righteous Teachers, and X-Clan Vanglorious. This is protected by the red, the black, and the green with the key, sissy. Like there was this consciousness of black people and awareness of all this stuff. But when Public Enemy came out, they was just like on another. I mean, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back is probably one of the most dynamic rap albums. It's in the top 10 of my all-time favorite, dynamic. It was just a different thing. And Chuck D, he couldn't even really rap real well, but he just had this booming voice. Here it is, bam, in your face. This is a dope jam. And then you had Flavor Flav just doing. It was just like it was a crazy collage. And so I just fell in love, man. I fell in love, and I still liked go-go, but rap just took over. There was so much creativity, all of it, that I started to listen. I was getting better at rap, and then I knew one day that I I wanted to rap. And then when the '90s hit, there was just a shift. I mean, really, when Wu-Tang Clan dropped, there was a clear shift in the music. I mean, there was like Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul. They were all dope, but it was a different vibe. And then when Wu-Tang dropped in '93, it was like the East Coast has changed because the West Coast was popping. They had Pac was out. They had the Chronic was out. Dr. Dre and Snoop. The West, man, I really always had.
Rap music was just a different expression of art that was like it just was a new thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like how do you? It's almost like adding to the invention of bread.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like they added to the invention of music, and they made this new genre out of all the genres that were there, and then that genre infected all the genres afterwards.
Because you know what's funny? Because you know what? You know what's interesting about that? It's funny you say that. Because at the time when rap came out, at the same time, punk rock was coming out too in the cities.
Very similar in their rebellion and underground vibe.
Like, it was people trying to connect and belong. And I think that's what, I think the 60s and the 70s were such tumultuous decades. And it was really about trying to find out where you fit in, you know. Where do you belong? What social group are you a part of? So you had on the white side, you had punk rock, and it just blew up. It just really was not different than it was a different vibe, right?
Isn't that how Blondie got connected to hip hop and all that?
That's it. Yeah. And that's when I realized like hip hop is something different, because when Blondie came out with the Rapture joint,
right?
That joint was, even though she was a white girl, didn't know nothing about that joint was just cranking though. You know what I'm saying?
What's the name? Wrote her rhyme, right?
Fab Five Freddy.
Yeah, he wrote her rhyme.
Yeah, he read that joint. But that was that joint was all right though.
It was a terrible rhyme, but the song was hot. Yeah, I like the song.
Yeah, the song was crazy. Now the rhyme was done. Fab Five Freddy when it's on all right. That joint, that joint was whack. But but it hit the way she in the song.
Listen. The way KRS-One flipped that joint later though.
Right.
I mean, one of the most amazing sample flips ever, bro. Yeah. And he just left it pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Step into
yeah, he just chopped it. That joint's a crank. Nah, it was good, man. I loved the music, and then as it got on, I knew I wanted to do that. I wanted to be a part of it, and I was grateful. So now, hip hop is a genre that shows up and is taking over. It's just a force to be reckoned with. And again, like Motown and other music, it is a music that resonates, that white people find cool. It's hip. Like this is how people were accepted. A lot of black people started traveling the country, traveling the world, getting money off of their ability to entertain. Yeah. And it was changing the economic status of people, because, and it was I remember this was the stat that they used back then, but I think it's accurate. White people were 87% with 87% consumption. They were the primary consumers, gangster rap, whatever it was, because they were rebelling against their parents, you know?
Right.
So again, it was this weird, like this sort of, all these worlds kind of collide of a lot of people trying to find their identities. And a lot of them found them in sinful things. For black people, rap music turned into a modern version of anti-law, antitrust of the government. It was almost like, and this is what was very sinful, but this is what I think was happening. I think in certain communities within the black community, inner city stuff where rap was coming out, what I think was happening was there was a bitterness towards law enforcement and just the history of black people in America, that rap music became to some degree like an aspect of vengeance, like taking vengeance back on sort of white society, white structures, all of these things, and being able to benefit and make money from it. Like really, that's what there's what I'm saying. It's so much deeper than just like political policies that got passed. That's not really. That's just the.
I mean, the wild thing is though, you know, the ones that really was making money was the record labels,
and they were all white.
Hip hop has been a $1 billion industry. It's just now finally we have rappers that are actually billionaires, but you know the industry has been $1 billion for years, man, for a long time.
So hip hop, because a lot of people that came up in it loved it, but then people got saved.
Yeah.
And you know, like all things, genres get redeemed, right?
Right.
And so hip hop becomes a genre that's redeemed. So for Strack, for you, how did you transition to loving the art form, doing the art form, to then doing it for the Lord?
Well, I mean, the art form started for me as a kid, obviously, just kind of loving hip hop and, popping tapes in, putting my little, piece of tissue in the tape so I could record myself
At the
rapping,
top of it, right?
record some of the beats, like
that
rap
tissue
over
at the
them
top.
joints. So that's how it started for me. But when I was about, I'm gonna say 23, my boys was going to the studio down the block, and they was all rapping. And I kept hearing what they was doing, and I thought I could do what they was doing, if not a little bit better. So I just, wrote my first rhyme. Tried to basically just sound like Nas as much as I could, because I was a huge Nas fan at the time.
Yeah.
And I thought my joint came out okay. If I listen to it now, I probably think it was terrible. But
Right.
but that's how it started for me. And then it was about 3 years in, actually 2 years in, and the Lord really started pulling on me. He started trying to yank me back to the people, to his people, to the church. And it just put a halt, make a long story short, it put a halt to the music that I was making. We had this little crew that I was running with. We had probably like 26, 27 songs. We was going to put out like a little double CD joint. We was performing at the Puerto Rican local parade. We was, we was doing our thing. But the Lord snatched me up, man. He convicted my heart. I bowed the knee to him, joined the local body again. And they had a ministry there. Actually, Juan Carlos, who used to do the basement, had a ministry back in the day called All for Souls. Actually, at the time, it was called Elohim Records or something like that.
I like that joint.
Yeah, so they brought me in, and they did this little sit-down time period where they was like, yo, you can sit with us and just kind of walk with us. And I remember praying at the time, like, Lord, I had a desire to still make music, but I knew I couldn't do what I was doing and the way I was making the music, the things that I was saying. So I needed to transition into how do I make music now to glorify the Lord, but I needed to develop content for that,
Right.
So one of the things that they had set up was a discipleship process through this ministry. So I began to get discipled in the ministry through that process. And sure enough, I mean, if it wasn't for that ministry, the Lord used it in major ways to develop my skill set in hip hop, but most importantly to have me grounded in the word before developing any of my gifts or talents. I needed to make sure I knew the Lord and was ready to walk with him, and even in the midst of suffering, because I suffered a lot at that time as well. So yeah, that's how I got into it, man. That through Los and Elohim, we became All for Souls. We did our little thing locally. We was well known a little bit local. Yeah, we enjoyed doing a lot of music, man. Traveled on the East Coast, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, Pittsburgh, New York, wherever we was invited, we rocked out. And we loved it, so.
Yeah, man, for me, I became really recommitted my life to the Lord. And I thought rapping was over for me because I'd gotten very close to getting a record deal. I thought I was going to sign. I mean, I told you this story. It was with either Bad Boy or Def Jam. Real story. Mm-hmm. I'm in a congressman's office off of Connecticut Avenue in D.C. Beside me is my man Rob Ham. Besides him is his uncle who organized the meeting. But his uncle was a industry photographer who had done 2 of Michael Jackson's album covers and some other stuff. So his uncle had pulled. He pulled together a group of A&Rs from different record labels. One of the most at the time, one of the most powerful entertainment lawyers in the and they sat down with us, about 10 people, listened to the demo I still have that demo. I listen to it every once in a while. And they were like, wow, you guys are like, we've never heard any music like this coming out of DC. So we did our biopic with my man's uncle, and he wanted to redo it, but these guys didn't want to redo the shit. It was all stupid stuff. I couldn't believe it. But I was, I gotten pulled in to, I was with the VP of marketing. I was hanging out with her and her daughter, the VP of marketing at BET. She was inviting me to all these industry parties. I mean, when Will Smith came out with Independence Day, he came to BET Soundstage, and I took my man who's still my kid's barber, my man Butt. I took my man Jax, and we got smacked. We got zooted, and we went up there, and it was. I wish we hadn't, because it was like a different vibe. You could tell we was just some street dudes that was high, but it was. I was getting invited to all these events from her, and so I really thought I'm going to make it in the industry, and then I caught all these. I got into a shootout with a rival gang, and then my man got shot, and then everything spiraled out of control, and now I'm facing, multiple decades in prison for this situation, and then so when I finally was like, I'm going to live for the Lord, I just wasn't thinking about music. I wasn't trying to really do it, and then I was a part of a family of churches where what I appreciated was they stressed humility, and so I thought because of that, I just thought rap was done. Or when I did rap, it wasn't really aggressive. Like, it wasn't the rap I did when I was in Trig Garcia, right? It was it was almost like Will Smith type rap. But it was primarily because I was a part of a family of churches that was predominantly white. And I knew that they're not going to understand the Intrigue Garcia rap. And so I called myself Voice because I was reading John 3 one time, and it said a voice crying out of the wilderness. And I liked that imagery. I wanted to be that for the Lord, a voice. So I called myself Voice. And I did music that really wasn't what I was used to, but I thought it would fit the seat where I was at. I wasn't aggressive. And then that time I hooked up with me and Apologist. I knew Evangel. I knew him when he was Alcatraz and Apologist, and we were kind of like friendly rivals. Like Cheggy Evangel was the best in his little crew, and I was the best in my, and so we knew each other, but we didn't connect. So after I'm working on my first album as a Christian artist, and then me and Will somehow we connect, and then he gave me a beat, and that's when my album was almost done, and that's when I found out about Holy Culture Radio. And I started listening. I was like, Dad, these dudes are rapping like I used to rap, but they rapping for the Lord. And that's when I was like, oh, man. I didn't know that you could still keep the vibe, but it was for him. But I realized, wow, this genre got redeemed. There's some. I used to think Christian rap was corny, and I was surprised. I just did it because I just missed the art form. But then I discovered, like, wow, these dudes can spit. Like, there's some real dudes that came into it. So, and I think it's biblical, man. I think a lot of things that have satanic origins get redeemed by believers, because, and I think even in 1 Corinthians 7, it says, like, wherever the Lord called you from, stay there. Like, that's what's going on in that? 1 Corinthians 7, it's just like, stay where you are whenever the Lord calls you. So there was a sense where, like, hey, this is the community. This is the art form I want to redeem it. I want to be a part of it. I'm not going to be like, oh, I can't redeem it because these people did. I was like, nah, we redeem it for the Lord like we do everything else, right? There's a lot of things that don't have any godly origins and all that stuff. So it became, when I realized this is a genre that can be redeemed, I started rapping as Voice. The Lord opened up doors. I was traveling the country before like a lot of artists were. And it was really weird how that happened. Like I went from nobody knowing me to all of a sudden I'm telling other people about people that ended up helping them become known more and stuff like that. So I was in like Christianity Today and some other magazines, and it just exposed the broader. I had the white audience where like Lecrae, Cross Movement, Shot Lamp Mode, they had like the black audience, but the black audience wasn't paying no bread. You was doing love offerings. You know what I'm saying? They want you to come out there.
I performed for plenty of those.
Yeah,
sure.
when you come out there and they want you to rap for like $100.
Yeah, I showed up one time. Listen, I showed up one time to this church, and the pastor asked me to come out and rock out for his congregation. I was like, word. He told me how many people there was. He told me the sound setup was decent. They got a sound guy. Everything was going to work out great. Fam, I show up there, I'm in the back. His mic's working good for his preaching and everything. Then he invites me up to come up and rock. And he puts the mic on a boombox. He put the mic down to a boombox and pushed play on my jump off. He was like,
are you serious?
I'm not playing, fam. I'm not playing.
Oh my gosh. What did you do?
I rocked out.
Right.
I rocked out on the joint. Like, there was people there that wanted to see me rock out, that had my album. Like, you know what I'm saying? I had studio time,
Right.
engineers, like all kind of stuff, and I'm in there rocking out with a mic on a boombox, and I did it like what? You know what I'm saying? It was, but speaking to what kind of events you talking about, they was happening on a regular basis. You know what I'm saying?
Bro. Yeah,
There was a few times I would just rock out a cappella. Just be like, listen, I'm just going to rock a cappella, then I'll do my little ministry thing, and we keep it pushing.
No, it was fun, man. I got to do a lot of shows, and I was doing them like I was a relative nobody, but was getting booked at these big events.
Nice.
So I felt a certain obligation to tell people about other artists that I felt like had put in more work than me. And the Lord used that. And so I did that for a while, and in 2010, I was like, man, I think I'm done with voice. I did like 4 albums, and I thought, man, I'm just good, because it was like theology rap, and I didn't really want to do theology rap. And so that's why I appreciated what Lecrae was doing, because it was more like real life situations rap. As a Christian, like Jesus music and all that. Like I could relate to that. So I just didn't want to do that. But then I felt I still have an itch, and so I took a couple years off, man, and then came back as Kirk Kennedy and dropped Frustrated Christian in 2014 and Chapter 2 later on that year, like 7 months later, and then just kept going. So it's been a good run. It's been fun, man, to redeem this and really spit and still do it, like at a high level. Like I feel like you still rap, Strack, at a high level. You know what I mean? Like it's not like, oh, you're just a whack dude now. Like, how you hear some people's rap and it's like, oh, fam,
probably
like
done.
It's a rap. It's a rap for you, like pun intended, right?
Yeah.
Pun intended. Like it's a rap, famo. You shouldn't worry about this anymore, But that's not for, like, I feel like for us and a few other people. Funny enough, man, a lot of the people that are my peers, they don't even rap anymore.
Yeah.
I don't even think they're good anymore. I don't even think they're good,
Yeah.
My peers aren't even like, I don't even think they can really rap that much anymore. They kind of still aren't. So it's just interesting.
Who are they? Who are your peers?
Shy Lynn. Yeah,
okay.
I mean, Lecrae still can rap.
Shy's not rapping no more? He's not doing nothing else?
I haven't heard him release anything. Last stuff I heard,
he might be done, though.
I think he's done.
He might just be done. You know what I'm saying?
Done.
Like, I don't know that I've heard the same passion the last couple times, maybe.
Yeah.
And some songs, I mean, some of the joints, I'm a Shy fan, so I still got bounce.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, cross movement guys,
Right, they're all
most
done.
of them not rapping, and sometimes the stuff they're putting out.
Well, no, actually, listen, Deuce is still doing stuff.
Yeah, but it's not at the same level. It's not the same
no,
level.
not to me.
We're being honest. It's not at the same level. It's not the same level.
Not to me. Not to me.
Like that's what I mean. Like even the guys who are still rapping, it's not at the same level as it was back then. Like
it's different. It's definitely different.
It's different. Yeah.
And I think, listen though, I mean, we're both old heads saying that about each other. So young boys there's some young boys out there that be like, yo, y'all, you sound old, yo. You sound old, yo. I'm talking about 15, 16-year-olds, but still.
They might say that. Yeah, they might say that. There might be some people that say that. But I would say that's not largely what we hear, though.
Yeah.
That's not largely what we hear at all. I mean, I hear from people, not everybody that's my age listens to there's a lot of people that listen to what we do. That's not what I'm hearing at all from people, because I would be like, all right, wrap it up. I mean, the rap doesn't need me to keep rapping. If
right.
I felt like,
I mean, well, I do rap because I love it, man.
Yeah,
I love doing it. You know what I'm saying? And I know.
But if you were hearing like, man, you kind of whack, bro. Like after a while, you'd be like, all right, man, I ain't putting no more time, man. Just people think I'm whack. If you were hearing that, at least I would. I would be like, all right, cool. That's not what I'm hearing. I mean,
I would hope my peoples would tell me I was whack or I was struggling. You know what I'm saying? But from people that I respect, all I keep hearing is, yo, you doing your thing. Like, from people that I respect.
Bro, you just what's the dude's name from the old Wu-Tang dude that used to be with, what was the dude who used to be down with like one of the offsets of, you
talking about Killer Priest?
Yeah, Killer Priest. They just listened to your joint and was like, yo, this joint is fire.
Right.
You know
I mean,
what I'm saying?
again though, how old is Killer Priest? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
like,
it was the other dude. It was the other dude saying it though.
Yeah, you're right.
But I mean, stop saying that, bro, because like it short changes. Don't say that. Don't make it seem like, because you're gonna give off the impression that you whack only accept the
I know
people
I
your
ain't whack.
age. I know, but you keep saying it like, yeah, those are like, what you talking about, fam? Stop. You supposed to be like, your music stands the test of time. Like, who cares what a 15-year-old says? The rap they listen to is not the same kind of
I
rap.
think it's garbage.
Yeah,
a
it's
lot of
garbage.
it.
So why you keep saying it as if like it's valid or something? Like we only
I'm
good.
not saying
people.
it like it's valid. I'm saying it like
man, I don't
I'm
care
just being
about
real.
those
People say
16-year-old
that.
kids. Oh man, I ain't care about what those 16-year-olds says. I don't make music for them. I'm not making music for that. My audience is not all people. It's a variety because I hear people that say, "Oh man, my kid loves this song or loves this or loves that."
For sure.
So, but you got man. We try to make sure people know what we do, and you keep drawing it back
My
to like, yeah, but
my
we whack, though.
grandbabies love my music.
Yeah,
I ain't
but,
saying
that's,
no,
that's
I
because
never
that's
said
because
we
they're your
was whack.
grandbabies though. Like, go ahead,
I
man.
never
Like, don't
said
act like
we
that,
was
man.
whack.
I ain't saying you say that, but when you keep drawing the attention to it, it's like, man, go ahead, man. I don't feel like that about myself.
Wow.
I don't feel like
so
that.
I'm just gonna stop being real. Go ahead, Kurt.
No,
What
how
we
is that
doing
real
here,
though?
Kurt?
How is that real though? How is that real to say like that there's some 16-year-old that would say we whack? How is that real though?
I mean,
Like,
we
why is that
keeping it-
being real?
Because it is. It's 100.
But people would say anybody's whack. There's 15-year-olds that say other little babies whack, and this person is whack. It's
I
not.
mean,
That's
we
just.
we
That's
just got
the
done
reality.
saying some people ain't what they used to be, and I think some people would say that about us. So it is
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I guess so. I'm sure it is, but I think. But I'm going off of just what you've heard. When you say that to me, I think you've heard somebody tell you that. I haven't heard anybody tell me that. So I'm saying if somebody's saying that, cool, I would love to hear that, but I haven't heard that. And it's not like, oh, I don't make music for people my age. It's like if you like hip hop, you might bang with this. Some people, it is age specific, but I don't think all music is. I think some of that stuff, especially rap, it's just like, man, you either like it or you don't. So I don't feel
Hip
like
hop
that.
has caught that though. Hip hop has
Yeah.
definitely caught that age thing
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. No, it has. I mean, I think so. I think it has.
I mean, if you pass a certain age, you're just automatically labeled as that's what it is. They don't.
But
care
that's
what you
assuming
got.
that people know your age. Like everybody doesn't know your age when they listen to your music, bro.
It's true.
You can't say that them Killer Priests and them know how old you are. They just put it in and they like it's either whack or not. You know, they don't know. Like I watch sometimes these YouTube videos where like, dude, like these young kids hearing like Nas's "The World Is Yours" for the first time, stuff like that.
And they be bugging out.
Be bugging out because it's like it's not. So I don't know if people know your age and think like it ain't like your music comes out, oh, age appropriate, you got to be over 35, over 40. That's just not how it works. It's
Or
like,
maybe it has to do with what you talking about as far as people not knowing like how you function in different avenues. Maybe it has to do with that. Maybe it's people seeing you only in one way.
well, I think
You know
that's
what I'm saying?
it. I think that's definitely true. When
Like,
people
you know,
see
restaurant owner, deacon at church, like all
Right.
these things. Oh, he's a rapper?
yeah, it just seems
you know what I
corny,
mean?
right? Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is then.
And I think that's part of it. But I'm just like I'm a pretty realistic dude. I'm just honestly saying I don't hear that a lot. Like, oh man, you sound like older. I actually think you and I are some of the fewer people that have improved as we got older. I think Kirk Kennedy is a way
That's
better
the goal.
artist than Voice was.
Yeah, that's the goal.
I think I wasn't nearly as creative, didn't have control of my breathing, weren't thinking of different styles and flows as much. Didn't
agree with that.
Didn't have the concept. I mean, Albumentaries is like a conceptual framework that nobody's really done before.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. Like, so that's why I'm pushing back because it's like, nah, if somebody thinks that cool, but I think like there are certain people that I've seen get worse as they get older and get better as they get older. And I'm honest about it. Like if I thought I'm really not at a level where I can rap, I just would be like, man, that's a rap.
I mean,
it's
the
not
goal
that
is
serious.
to get better at everything you
Always
do
to get
as
better,
you get
right?
older. You
To get
should
better.
want to.
Right.
You know, like that
You
should.
should. And I think you push the envelope. I know you do
Yeah,
that. I know some
you
people
should.
do that. Not
Thank
everybody
you.
can do that and doesn't have the, and I don't think it's about, I'm not saying it because of age.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying, I didn't even know how old you were when we first really met. And I was like, man, this album right here, I think this joint's better than Eminem's joint because he had just dropped. And I didn't know nothing about you. I was just like, I could hear the hunger.
Mm-hmm.
I could hear the creativity in the bars, the production, the way you were bouncing off of it. I didn't know, oh, he must be. I didn't think that at all. It was like, oh, fam can spit.
Yeah, no, that's still one of the illest compliments I've ever gotten though.
Yeah,
Word
I
up.
was like, I didn't even know you. I was like,
Yeah,
man,
no,
whoever
we know
this
each
dude
other.
is,
Yeah.
this dude is like, so again, I think for where we are, while I do think, I'm sure, and someone's going to always, there's people that think Drake is whack, and he's the number one artist in the world. So there's always going to be people that say that, but I'm not going to look at myself like I'm somehow kidding myself, but I'm really whack because somebody might say that. It's like,
Yeah, nah, I think you know what it is. It's not necessarily that I don't cherish or value my work.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's that I have a negative view on how my work is viewed by others.
right.
You know what I'm saying? And that
Yeah.
comes through years of
Right.
efforts and years of not being acknowledged. And so basically what it comes down to is rather than developing like oh, my haters and I got all these haters, it's just like, look, this is what it is. I do it because I love to do it, because I know that I'm honoring the Lord, and when I do what I'm gifted to do. And if others think I'm gifted, great. If they don't, cool. You know what I mean? So that's just more the route that I take with everything. You know what I'm saying? Because I've been doing art in different levels, different ways for a long time.
You definitely have.
You know what I mean? So
I think, but I think you know what it is too, man. I think people, I was watching, I accidentally hit this clip. Or I was watching some YouTube short, right? I don't know why. And it was a lady saying why women like bad guys, like women, like why do good girls like bad boys, right? She was just trying to say that like she would say women like a man who other women like they want to be with a man that other women want to be with, right? That's drawn to them. And I thought, that's not even about like relationship structure. That's human nature. Like people, if you get popular for whatever reason, people will give you the benefit of the doubt and view you differently.
for sure.
And so if you luck up and get popular, it could be like because you're a good artist, but sometimes people just they want to be like, I like what other people like. Mm-hmm. So when you're not known, people don't they might be like, that's why they'll listen to it and be like,
it's all about value. People just don't find the value in it.
They don't find the value in it because you're not valuable
right.
in terms of popularity, right?
Right.
But that's different than you're whack, though, right?
For
That's
sure.
different.
That's totally different. Yeah.
And I think that's why I was pushing back against what you're saying, because I think
that's totally different.
It's different to me. Like you just don't have the skill or ability to put out music. It's different than you're not as popular, so some people might not give you a look. Because we live in an oversaturated market, right? Where people don't want to. So if they know you as, oh, he's a podcaster, he's a pastor, you think, oh, his music's going to be whack. It can be hard to make that transition if that's your introduction to a person.
Rather than thinking, wow, if this dude's able to do all these things,
right?
Dang, like he must be good at something. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. And that's what I think. I don't think people. But especially and this is I don't know why this is, but I think ministry, I think as Christians we get bogged down into we got to be only able to do one thing, right? So if you're an elder in your church or you're serving, you preaching on Sundays like you do, it's like, well, that's what you do. It's like, well, nah, I write, I paint, I do some other stuff. I'm creative, My outlet has always been also photography, right? So people be shocked, like, bro, how did you take this pic? As if, because in their minds, I'm Pastor Kurt, right? Mm-hmm. They don't think of me as creative. They might appreciate my videos and sort of creative connections that I'll make. But to them, I'm a pastor, and that's pretty much what I'm known for. But it's like, nah, we're multifaceted. Like, we do a lot of other things. I mean, Paul could preach and all that, but he could also make a tent, though. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Paul could put together a nice tent, I'm sure, and made money off of that. So, again, it's like we don't give each other that, unless you're like really popular and all that stuff. So, for me, that's why I like to still do stuff and put it out there. But I think you've gotten better. I think we've improved because we still care about the craft in that way.
For sure.
And I would say a lot of people haven't. So I'm not going to listen to some mythological 15-year-old kid who might think I rap. Cool. You know what I'm saying? I bet you we could rap better than a lot of them dudes. Put a beat together. Give me a beat. Let's go. Not that I wouldn't even care about that for real. But I'm not gonna have that in my mind as like, oh, okay, yeah, everyone thinks everybody's whack on some level. So like when you get to this Billboards, right? Billboard did a top 50 rappers because of the 50-year history. And we're not gonna go through this whole list because we don't got time.
No.
But this joint is interesting, right? So I'm gonna just read the top 10 of Billboard's top 50, and let's see if you have a problem with these. All right, here's Billboard's top 50, top 10 of their top 50. They got Jay-Z at number 1. They got Kendrick Lamar at 2. They got Nas at 3. Tupac at 4. Eminem at 5. Notorious Big at 6. Lil Wayne 7. Drake at 8. Snoop Dogg at 9. Nicki Minaj at number 10. This is Billboard's top.
Now, I mean, to be fair, I think all of those, with the exception of Nicki Minaj, could be in a lot of people's top 10.
I agree with that. I do.
I think so.
Now, to give perspective, Rick Ross is at number 50.
Right.
Run from Run DMC is 49.
Yep.
Melly Mel is 48.
That's the 10 on the other side.
Yeah. MC Lyte is 47. Jadakiss is 46.
Right. Think of who's all in front of Jay.
Right.
Jadakiss.
Ice-T is at 45.
Right.
Queen Latifah is 44. Bun B is 43. Redman is 42.
All those people in front of Redman.
41 is E40. E40. This dude could hardly rap on beat. I'm dead serious. No disrespect to anybody.
You know what it is?
But
It's
E40
what E40 has done for the culture. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
What it is.
It had to be that. It had to be that. E40, he'd be like this. And he just, you wouldn't know what was going on. You had, yeah. I just didn't know what was going on. You got Dr. Dre at 40. Dr. Dre doesn't even really rap like that. Most people write his rhyme. Ludacris at 39. Gucci Mane at 38. So Gucci Mane, they got ahead of Jadakiss.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Common at 37.
Yeah,
Most Def at 36. Future at 35. Chuck D, 34. Busta Rhymes, 33.
That's another one that's just bananas to me, man.
Yeah, I mean, this is what T.I.'s 32. We just gonna keep going. Lil Kim is 31.
I tell you, you know what stands out to me about this though is consider how many names are in hip hop now that are famous. Like,
right, yeah.
Like you can't really name that many in other genres. I couldn't, but I'm a hip hop guy. But right. I think people would be hard pressed to name as many people in other genres as they can in hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the stars that have come out of this genre is crazy. It's bananas.
Yeah, it is. No, it is. E40 is a legend of my city. Listen, E40 had hits. I mean, Sprinkle Me was the joint. Sprinkle Me. That joint used to crank. I mean, he had a couple of joints, but we talking about his place on the list, fam. Like, I don't think he's one of the top 50 best of all time.
Back to my point real quick. When's the last time Billboard put a top 50 rock and roll artists?
You know what? That's a good question. Together. That's an interesting question to ask.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't know if they have ever done one.
I don't know that they ever have either, but if they haven't, it's interesting. I mean, hip hop has it.
My Hurricane. We must put Boss on him. Remember Boss? Deeper and deeper. Boss was like a female rapper that was like real vicious. My man used to love Boss. All right, Lauryn Hill at 30, Pusha T at 29, Black Thought at 28.
Yeah, I mean, Black Thought is probably, for most people that love hip hop, you're gonna put him in your top 10. You're not gonna have him at 28.
From lyricism, right?
For lyricism,
just
yeah.
lyricism.
For lyricism. I mean,
you know, the problem with these lists are though, you got to qualify it more because
too many categories.
Yeah, because there's too many. Like when you're talking about straight lyricism, I wouldn't even say Jay-Z's number one if you're talking about straight lyricism. If you're talking about
You can't say number one, but you got to have him in your top 10. I mean, he be
yeah,
dropping
I'm
some
talking about number
bars.
one though. I ain't talking
Yeah,
about top 10.
You can't
I ain't
have him
saying
number one. You can't have him number one.
I wouldn't say lyricism, but it's like there's a
Nah.
lot of
You got to have Black Thought above Jay-Z on lyricism.
if you're gonna talk about just lyricism,
yeah,
100%. But when you talk about overall impact on the culture, of course you're gonna go with Jay-Z number one.
Yeah, or Busta. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or Drake. I mean,
Big Pun
dudes
at
changed the
26, Method Man at 25. I'm gonna say something that's blasphemous to some people. I think Big shouldn't. I think he's too high, man. Top 10.
Pun. I mean, or Biggie.
Biggie, yeah, I think he's too
Yeah.
high. I think don't get me wrong, he was a good, but he did 2 albums, man. Like we have no idea what the next album could have sounded like. That joint could have been like whack.
I highly doubt it.
I doubt it too. But he was leaving Bad Boy after Life After
But
Death.
you know what it was though with Big? Big came in at a time where he was like the Rakim of his era. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
he changed rap. You know what I'm saying? Like dudes were rapping different, and Big came in and just spit it in a different way and messed everything up for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like Craig Mack had a different style, and Big style was so evolved in comparison to Craig Mack that he left them behind.
Well,
You know
Craig
what I mean?
Mack was but Craig Mack got on because of the production. I mean, that flavor in your ear, boom,
That joint was crazy.
boom. But I'm saying though, it was the production. It was
His
the
voice was dope
production.
too. His voice was dope.
Yeah, it was.
It was the production for sure.
It was the production. Come on, man, because he would have been there, but now when Big just had Big said, "Heart throb never, black and ugly as ever. However, I stayed Gucci down." Nah, he was on there. Yeah. Like Big L, I don't even think Big L's on this list.
He should have been, but he's not.
Karis One's 24, Curtis Blow 23,
That's crazy.
Ghostface Killer 22, DMX 21, Big Daddy Kane 20.
That's crazy.
Missy Elliott, 19. Get Missy off this list. She shouldn't even be on this list.
She's an artist.
Ice Cube at 18. Tell me, 50 Cent at 17. Scarface at 16.
It's crazy, man.
J. Cole at 15. LL Cool J at 14. Rakim at 13. Andre 3000 at... I'm sorry, bro. I think he's just overrated, dude. Really? I think Andre... I don't think he's that talented. He's okay. He's a little bit like...
I don't agree. I think that boy is extremely talented.
I ain't say he wasn't talented. Yeah. I think he's overrated to be on this list. I think people put him in their top 5. I listen to a lot of Outkast. He can rap, but I think he became more abstract with his flow.
Eccentric.
And I think that and I just don't. I don't think. Again, it's all personal preference, right? I think he's too high. I think he's too at 12. I don't think so. So he's there's a lot of people that would. I mean, Kanye, 11. And then we got to the top 10, Nicki Minaj and all that. Yeah, don't get me wrong, I thought Big was good. But I thought he was overrated. I thought Big Pun was better than Big in terms of flow and all of that stuff. But Biggie was more entertaining because his style was very basic. You could just hear everything. And the production they had was incredible. I mean, the Hitmakers was like, they was incredible, bro.
Big was one of the smoothest dudes on the beat. Smoothest. Like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Aside from like a Jay, I mean, Jay-Z's another smooth dude on the beat. But Biggie had that smooth steez, man. I think Jay probably just tried to imitate Big, fam. That's probably all he did was try to imitate Big. Because first it was Jazzo.
Yeah. Yeah, he was imitating Jazzo, right? At first.
Yeah, and then it was Big. You know what I'm saying? Took that smoothness.
He
sacrificed Big to the Illuminati.
You're right. That's what they say, right? Nah, it's crazy, man. It's been, I don't listen to a lot of hip hop these days. The newer stuff that comes out, because it's just I'll peek and see what's out there. And I think because I still release music, I like to just see what am I competing with even? Where are people at? I would say this. I feel like there is a I think there is a resurgence of normal bars again, though. I would say the mumble rap era is over.
I hope.
I think it's over. Like I think there's a resurgence of people. I'm not saying that everybody's like. There's still a lot of like auto tune, like melodic rap, right?
Yeah.
But like I think it's getting back to people rapping. Like you think of the people who are newer that are on top of the game. Who of them like Lil Baby can rap? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Lil Durk can rap. Future, I mean, I think Future's kind of weak in terms of, but like he can still rap though. He still put stuff together. Drake can rap. J. Cole can rap. Kendrick can rap. You know what I'm saying? Even Baby Keem, he got his own little style. But like a lot of the Lil Uzi Vert, Meek Mill, you think about a lot of the people who are on top of the game right now, even the newer artists, they can rap. And then you have sort of lane for people who are doing like melodic singing and NBA Youngboy and these kind of dudes. It's so many little whatevers. They still, but I mean, there's a lot of people right now. Even the girls, like they can rap. Like these girls can rap today. It's wow, they can rap. So I think there's a place for even in Christian hip hop, man. I've been seeing some young dudes coming up that can rap. You know, it's like I think it's getting back to that rap. Now it's going to center around your production. Does your production sound dated? And that's what I think is going. You got to be able to spit over stuff that might sound like modern, but you do your thing. That's what J. Cole, he does very well.
Right.
J. Cole could just rap over straight boom bap beats, but then I think it would sound dated. You got to be able to switch it up some and do that. So I think there's a place for rap being back, but it's been, to me, even though a lot of rap is not glorifying to the Lord as a genre, it's been cool to be a part of it and to watch it grow and develop.
For sure.
It's been cool, man. I've appreciated that, and it's fun, man. Like you said, there's nothing. I don't know how you are. Do you still get like excited when you know my joint releases tomorrow? Like,
yeah,
Let
definitely.
me see this. Wayne top 50, yes. Conversation for 1 or top 5. Yeah, I agree with Mark. Bars are coming back for sure. Agree. Who do y'all got number 1?
That's too hard, man. I mean, there's too many categories, too much. You know, we did that episode where we did the artistry thing. The rap and everything. It's just too much.
Yeah, I think it depends on the categories you're talking about. If you're talking about overall influence with bars and beats and all of it, then I think you got to give Jay that. Right, just overall, just pound for pound, a lot of it. You got to give Jada. I mean, you know what it is, man? People evaluate music by the moments that it gives you, right? Like, it's a moment. Like, that's why people are like, no, this is his best album. I think sometimes it's the best because what it meant to me in that moment, that's what gets you. You know, I don't think it's just pure ability. Like when Jay-Z dropped the Blueprint album, he dropped that joint on 9/11, bro. Like that album, I was smoking weed and just like listening to that album while the world was collapsing. And that album just felt, it was crazy. It was dope, but it was also the moment. Like it was a moment.
Felt it. You felt 9/11.
Yeah, it was a moment happening. And I think a lot of people think they're rating people's best albums, but I think what they're rating is the moments that they give, you know? Like, I don't think Kanye West is like a really good rapper, but he just gives you moments, though, you know? There's songs that come out, you just like, oh, man. It's not hard. It's like, I ain't saying she a gold digger. But she, you know, it's real. It's basic, right? It's not like, listen to the... I mean, I'll have some punches that can be clever. You know, couldn't afford a car, so she named her daughter Alexis. So there's some stuff like that that's dope, but a lot of it is just like, this is a moment right here, you know? This is a moment that's coming on. And that's what I think people relate to in many ways. It's like, This is just a moment. This person made me feel this way when this album dropped, and I needed this music for that, you know?
Yeah, music is that, for sure.
It does that. It does that to us, man. So it's cool, man. I appreciate it. But listen, y'all, if y'all are listening, I know you may see us as, and you should, see us as we present ourselves. Strack is an artist. He's a business owner, restaurant owner. this and that. But he's also, creative, lyrically, musically. I am a pastor. My by trade, I'm a pastor. I do YouTube, all of that. But I also can rap. You know what I'm saying? And so, so we got some other stuff that we're working on. We'd love to get your support for that. We'd love to have you all support us. And with that, so there'll be some new music released. I actually have a song called "What Happened to Kanye" that I think will be of interest to people as we do that. But it's been fun, man. I think the point you made earlier, Strack, about people not knowing, like, they know you for, okay, you like, even Ruslan. I think I know he raps too, but I think he even, like, reminds people, like, hey, I still do music. Go do this. I think you get to the point where, like, where people become like, you just see people in a lane, and it's hard to, you appreciate them in that lane and not necessarily other lanes that they may be in. So what I hope is that as we talk about this and as we gear up for other things, like other music releases, that people are, like, able to push past, like, that's a dude I watch on YouTube that talks to me, makes connections about the Bible, that they're able to be like, oh, wow, this is actually real talent right here. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But it's like, there's real talent, there's creativity, there's all of that. That's the stuff that's encouraging when you get to do that. So still love the art form, redeem the genre, continue to redeem it, and I think it's just fun, man. It's fun to do it. So, man, we appreciate y'all. It was funny to watch some of the comments. Was good, man. I was appreciating. I usually try to stay on task, but I was more like
laughing
in the
at us
comments.
going back and forth.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, we like to do that from time to time. We don't always hold hands, You know what I'm saying? Nothing wrong with that. I just ain't let no mythological 15-year-old tell me I'm whack. You can let them tell you whack. I ain't letting no mythological 15-year-old tell me I'm whack. I ain't doing it. You know what I'm saying? But look, y'all, man, we appreciate y'all, man. Hope y'all enjoyed this episode. A little different from what we do, but this is what we used to do, man. And I miss these conversations. While I enjoy what we do, it's fun, man, to be able to talk hip hop and talk about this stuff, because we just don't do that much.
Got me yawning now, man.
Yeah, look at you. Look, see how Strack be blaming? See that? Look, he just yawning because that man, it's been a long day. It's been a long day. All right, y'all, man, we appreciate y'all. Don't forget to go to KirkKennedy.com and AbnersBrush.com. Check us out. Find us there. We got new music coming soon. I'm laughing at that. Mythological, that's what I'm talking about.
I know.
That's what I'm talking about, Mark, the mythological 15-year-old, man. He be bothering Strack. He got Strack feeling like, man, he can't rap no more. Now he trying to put that on me. You know what I'm saying? Well, next project's coming in a couple months. Tell me if I can't rap. I'll be interested to hear that. So, all right, man, we appreciate y'all. Thanks for hit the like and subscribe button. Please do that. Leave some comments on the video. I know some of y'all is different for y'all, but we also do things outside of just talking about specific things about the church and all of that stuff. So we appreciate y'all. Having said that, I'm Kirk Kennedy. He's Strack the Wolverine.
Come on,
and we're out of here, y'all, man. Grace and peace.
Peace.